Previously on Tales from Tech Titans.
The lessons I learned in elite sport, team sport. It's a tricky one. It was never an easy balance. People generally at their core appreciate being trusted and respected and being empowered.
There's another guy, Fons Trompenaar, that also does a lot of work around cultural differences.
Right.
But specifically, he presents different cultures with dilemmas. If you have unlimited resources, you can resolve.
Right.
A dilemma,
yes, okay.
all the resources in the world, you can't resolve.
Yes. So too much for you or I to understand, I suspect, right, in its entirety, right?
Correct.
There'd be subject matter experts far more qualified than either of us,
100%.
right? Enough that we understand that it is different, right? And sometimes vastly different, and respecting that diversity and difference.
How was your time in the US? What did you...
Once again, so many great people. I know that it absolutely blossomed. Absolutely blossomed. After initial huge reluctance.
Who do you think is going to win, by the way, Trump or Harris?
Who do I want to win?
No, not want
Harris.
to win.
I want Harris to win.
Yeah,
I don't want that to win.
It's pretty fascinating because I saw from your resume, as you said, you went from Mexico then to America. Or somewhere else probably. But
that's right. So we came back. So I think Dom had finished high school in Singapore, and Alex was in year 9, I think. I can't recall. But so we sold our apartment that we'd bought in Singapore, sold my motorbike. And then had a good chat with the kids. So we'd bought a place down the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria. So we were back there and we said, okay, decision time. You can come with us to America. Fantastic. Connecticut, New England, absolutely stunning, beautiful part of the world. You can stay in Singapore, where we were still living, and friends, and we've been here for 6 years. You can go back to Sydney, where you were born and grew up, or you can come to Melbourne, where there's some family and some friends. And it was a good decision. So they both decided Melbourne.
Okay.
They had never lived in Melbourne before, but they had some friends and they liked the notion. So Don went into university, got into trouble the first week, living on campus, and Alex moved into a boarding school in Melbourne as well.
Yeah.
And which was really, I was going to say it's just normal for us. That's their decision, and that's great, and they know everything that it entails. It wasn't just some random, and it wasn't our decision. It was theirs, but with our full support. If either of them hadn't worked out, then we would have called it quits in America and come back, that week.
Yeah.
Or if they wanted to move to America or wherever, if it didn't work out, not a problem. As it turned out, it worked out really well for both of them. And Fee had, I think it was something like 3 months in Melbourne, just settling them all in, and I moved over to a bloody freezing Connecticut in the middle of winter with totally unsuitable clothing from Singapore, and started a new role in the US as well.
Yeah. So how was your time in the US? What did you?
Once again, so many great people. Some exhausting conversations. Some of the brightest, smartest people. Just extraordinary, and that was a fabulous 3 years or so, including setting up a technology hub in Argentina to service the globe and North America. So I loved we're talking about cultural attributes, and now it was sales and marketing primarily with some compliance. And culturally, the Argentinian approach was well suited to the dynamic, customer-centric, vibrant, agile expectations of our sales and marketing function.
Yep.
And so it worked fabulously, really, really well. We ended up with, I can't recall, a couple hundred people in Argentina.
Yeah, wow. So that's interesting because I have to be really careful how I make this next comment, but from my time in the US,
Yep.
I met some incredibly smart people,
Yep.
but with some very narrow views of the world.
Yep, true.
And again, I'm trying to be very cautious. That's not.
Right.
That was just a general observation of the US.
Yeah.
So how did you overcome that?
So I observed the same thing. It was, culturally or commercially, there's relatively few ideas for the US to look beyond its borders quite often. Mm-hmm. When you look at competencies and capabilities and so on, well, there's many suitable resources, capabilities within country. So we talked about the value that a nearshore, called nearshore, offshore centre could offer. They had some troubles. I'm recalling now, they had some issues with an offshore provider, not happy with time zones and comprehension, complex business problem comprehension. And so we trialled, we have to make stuff up, is there was a data group and some sales and some marketing and even some compliance happening out of Argentina in the end. And I recall my team nervously approaching the notion, apprehensively approaching the flight, and delighting upon the return from Argentina, right? Okay. And I think I know that it absolutely blossomed after initial huge reluctance.
Yeah.
I can't recall. There was even not the threat, but like in Singapore, I said, we'll make this work. If it doesn't, I'll make it up to you, type stuff, And it worked so well. A couple of visits down to Argentina, talking with the group there. We set it up as part of the Boehringer Ingelheim office as well, which I recall was in a little bit of strife financially, and so they benefited. So it was all in-house.
Yeah.
So Boehringer benefited by every metric.
Fantastic.
And I think it's still going. I hope it's still going. It's been quite a while now, but all the teams that travelled down to Argentina, reluctantly initially, and then upon one trip, just embraced the model.
Yeah.
As you would understand, right? The value was just just brilliant. So yeah, that was a wonderful success, including moving some people from our business into IT, which we did in Singapore as well.
Yeah.
So non-technologists leading technology functions. Yeah. In terms of your delicate position around culture, if you like, and the insular nature of some of our US colleagues. So perhaps mentally and geographically, given the opportunity, my experience was it went beautifully. Yeah, just went beautifully, right? Yeah.
Look, I think anyone that gets the chance, I think, to work in the US, it's such an enormous insular country, and it has such an impact on the rest of the world.
Yes, that's right.
I genuinely believe that some of the economic challenges that we're going through at the moment are because there's a US election this year.
Yeah.
I think every time there is a US election, maybe not 2020 because of COVID, but the rest of the world kind of stutters a little bit to keep a watch.
Hold his breath.
We probably get more news about Trump on the news than we do about Albanese.
Yes.
Who do you think is going to win, by the way, Trump or Harris?
Who do I want to win?
No, not want
Harris.
to win.
I want Harris to win. I don't want that to win. So who do I think will win? Well, now that Harris is in the running, I think they've got a good chance of. It's a polarizing thing in the US, blue and red. That's it. And there's often little conversation about policy as well. It's you dyed in the wool. Republic or Democrat. Right?
I remember when I got to Texas, when I moved there, and someone said to me, "Don't talk about guns, God, or politics, and you're safe."
Yes. So I recall introducing myself to the team in the US, and talking about my success metrics. About the relationship I have with my wife and my family, the quality of my friendship, of enjoying a quiet barbecue with friends. These are the most important things to me. The welfare and positivity of the teams that I work in and help set up.
Yeah.
These are the most important things to me. And somewhere in there, I talked about being an atheist. And after 3 years, there were a few people approached me when I left that said something like, I'm paraphrasing, gee, you did really well, and we really enjoyed working with you in spite of the fact that you said you're so an atheist. This is 3 years later. And so, when politics gods, that's right there. So, because I am an atheist, so much. I get this from my parents, I know, right? The critical thinkers as well. Dad ended up dying in Vietnam in the hotel where the book The Quiet American was written, because he wanted to get there before he died. Mum went through voluntary assisted dying, one of the first dozen in Victoria to do it as well. The complex, cumbersome sort of process. Yeah. So we are matter of fact people, if you like.
Yeah.
There
you go.
How's that for a flashback?
There's
we're going everywhere with this.
We're going everywhere. I'm going to get back to the story because
really, which story?
Which story? Okay. When you talk about your time with Boehringer, the 14 years, you've travelled to many places in the world. You've worked with some incredible teams. You can see the energy off you, right? It was clearly a great time in your life as well, with your children growing up and the experiences and so forth, right? And it all sounds very glamorous, particularly the international travel and all these kind of bits. What were the unglamorous parts?
24/7, non-stop. So with the kids back in Australia, that 3 years in the US was exhausting. The transition in Singapore, I recall midnight call saying, that's it, I'm done. Like I'm not paying attention anymore, and I don't have to be part of this call. Because that was that balance that I talked about that started to be disrupted again. So the unglamorous parts are the enormously taxing activities, right? The huge projects, unbelievably large projects, and the scrutiny that went with it. And then, but I would say above all, I know what I'm most confronted by, and that's people not aligned to some of my core values.
Okay.
So you mentioned you're an optimist.
Yeah.
So as am I.
Yeah.
The eternal optimist, positivity. There is an answer. Right. Dealing with people the opposite is really exhausting for me.
Yeah. Okay.
So if there's a pessimist whose arms are folded, sitting back in the chair saying, nope, there's no need to do this, to change, to listen, to do, to whatever, that's the most exhausting for me. And in those big roles, you strike people like that. You come across people and you can't walk past them, as I would do normally, and ignore them. You've got to, confront is the wrong word, but, deal with it. Yeah, so they're the exhausting, frustrating.
So how would you deal with a pessimist?
Exhaustingly. I know it to be taxing to me. The micromanager, coming back to Australia, dealing with micromanagers and not me, negative people. It's exhausting. I know it to be the most confronting thing that I face in my professional career. In my personal life, I walk past them. I can just turn away, same, sexist, racist, bigoted, narrow-minded behaviour. I ignore or call out. Fee does it so much better than I. She will call it out, right? But it is the most exhausting. That referendum we had a year ago, right? If you don't know, vote no. What the hell? So what? But it's that sort of attitude that exhausts me.
Yeah.
Because if I don't know, vote no. What does that mean? That means I don't want to learn. I have no interest in learning or understanding. Well, I don't know how the microwave works, but I use it.
But do you know what? That's the failing of every referendum, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely.
As in,
yes.
If you're not sure,
Yep.
vote for the status quo.
That's right.
Which also, by the way, blew my mind about Brexit, how that ever got the yes.
What
I mean, it was very close.
Yes.
But I remember at the time actually reading about some financial stockbroker analyst, and he'd researched referendums. And what he discovered is that where it was close call, 99% of the time, no was the result, right? Because people preferred the status quo.
That's right.
Over the unless it was overwhelmingly a yes,
right?
No was probably going to win.
Yeah.
And this guy borrowed a lot of money. I think he remortgaged his house and put his money on the no vote.
Really?
And he was going to. The odds were pretty slim, but he was going to make a big enough gain from doing it. So I never heard the outcome. But I remember the time leading into the vote. But I was living in Texas when that happened, and I woke up and my now wife actually said to me they voted for Brexit, and I
didn't believe it.
What? I could not actually believe.
But we do some funny stuff, don't we? Yeah. We were in Singapore when Julia Gillard was Prime Minister, and it was embarrassing.
Right.
The abuse, the abuse that our Prime Minister copped. Right, was just extraordinary. So and we were living in a country whose leadership I have so much respect for. Singapore, right?
But it's a different time, isn't it? I think as we talked about Trump earlier, as a Brit, having been through Boris Johnson, the lady's name I can't remember now, that was Prime Minister for like 30 days.
That's right. Yes, was it the tomato? Which one goes off first?
Oh, the lettuce.
The lettuce. It was the lettuce. Yeah.
But she'll always go down in history because she was Prime Minister when the Queen died. Right. So she. But albeit she was Prime Minister for like 30 days or whatever it was. Yes. And then Rishi. So it's, I think that's just global politics, unfortunately. I think you're someone clearly that values leadership and strong, defined.
So Lee Kuan Yew, Ataturk in Turkey, right? Lee Kuan Yew did such a brilliant job, right? Some would call it a bit ruthless, at times, but look what Singapore is now. Even China, some perhaps questionable foreign policies and domestic policies, but he's lifted 1 billion people out of poverty, and delivering a vision for a country that no one else has done in a democracy for, perhaps ever. Right.
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's actually I read an interesting statistic recently, and it said that coming out of the Second World War, only 11% of the world lived under democracy.
That's interesting.
Whereas I think we sit today around 55%.
Yes, okay.
It was talking about the speed of change and how we don't necessarily we think things have been as they are now for a long time,
right.
but we don't actually realise how modern. The same piece was talking specifically about how humans existed on the planet for tens of thousands of years, and it was only about 200 years ago we actually got off the ground in a hot air balloon for the first time.
That's right.
But within 100 years, the Wright brothers invented the airplane. Within 50 years, we were on the moon, or 60 years, sorry. And now we're talking about colonising Mars and all sorts of crazy stuff.
What are you talking about? Elon Musk, who I used to deeply admire, and I still admire some of the stuff he does, but much of what he says and does is just
So he's interesting. I was talking to someone about this recently.
He's a polarizing character, isn't he?
Exactly this. And I was saying, would your opinion of Elon Musk put you off buying a Tesla?
For a younger generation, it has. It has. It directly affected that. But then you're looking at some of the cars coming from China now, and they're just brilliant.
But the question we were talking about is, when you see someone driving around in a Tesla, is that an endorsement for Elon Musk?
That's right. It's tricky, isn't it?
It's tricky.
Because he did revolutionise that whole industry.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Did a fantastic job. The world owes him so much. And then he does some crazy stuff. But then SpaceX, brilliant.
But he's changed the world in so many ways.
Yes. And mostly positive.
Mostly positive. That's right. There's some bonkers stuff there, right? It's a bit like Steph Curry in the NBA. He's come into the world of business and innovation and disrupted it.
Yes.
And it's probably made a lot of people rethink the way that they do things.
Yes.
In a positive way, as a result.
Absolutely.
Now, maybe I'm being the optimist again here.
No.
And I'm
with you. I'm with you.
Disagreeing to some of the terrible things and so forth, or dismissing any of that. But there has to be good from that disruption as well.
Absolutely. That's right. Yeah. Well, he's revolutionised mass transit, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah. So for the positive.
But he's also going back to your point you were just making. He's also created
which one?
Many points, but
Right.
he's created a bonkers vision
Yes.
of colonizing Mars.
Yes.
Right, which makes people dream big.
That's right.
And it makes people go
Yes.
and do things that they never thought were possible.
Totally. Fantastic.
And I think there's a lot of
Yes.
power in that by
Yes.
saying let's rip up the
Absolutely.
playbook, let's
Yeah.
rip up the expectations of the world.
Yeah. Totally.
So
Totally.
it's,
Yeah.
All right, where did we get to? So you returned to Australia,
Yes.
and you had a couple of roles, Dulux and then Aroa, both as CIO.
Yeah.
Going into those kind of roles as a CIO, how do you set yourself up for success?
How do I set myself up for success? I mean, it sounds boring, but it's the same playbook. I would say, all of those foundational things about leadership and so on. Tactically, at Dulux Group, there was a great opportunity because I'm going to have to make some of the numbers up, but there are 18 autonomous business units, operating with a high degree of independence, and we identified there was a model, perhaps to support strategic growth, whether it was organic or through acquisition, and so collectively, driven by IT, we designed a new business model for Dulux Group. Looking at all of the enabling functions, then the supply chain, manufacturing, distribution functions, then go to market. So we laid the organisation horizontally, if you like, by capabilities rather than 12, 18 autonomous siloed organisations.
Yeah.
And found existing people and new people that would help describe and deliver that model. Yeah. And that was a wonderful exercise. Worked with a whole bunch of really great people, one of whom came full circle, one of the delights of my career, full circle to where I am today. And then I think it was, 4 years or so at Dulux, and then got a call from Aurora and started the same process there. Found a bunch of wonderful leaders as well, and most of those leaders have gone on to do just more wonderful things. Fantastic, just brilliant, right? And I was around at Aurora, or Opal, part of the Aurora ex-Aurora organisation, some weeks ago, connecting again with those people who delivered such success in such a positive environment as well. So it's just a wonderful thing, having a positive influence on people's careers and lives.
One of those people in your time at Aroa was Paula O'Toole.
Paula O'Toole, legend.
So we've got Paula in a couple of weeks. Coming on the
really?
podcast. So tell me something about Paula.
Paula's an absolute champion.
Yeah.
Absolute champion. Such a delight. So I think the funny part of that story is I think I sent a box of Tim Tams to Paula's door as the final trigger to get her to come and join us. She'd never worked in technology before. She'd had a fantastic, huge career up through Asia and globally, I think. That's right. Logistics and supply chain stuff. That's right. And an absolute champion. And I've forgotten how we found her. I think I just tracked her down somehow, and just loved the model, and convinced her to join us. And she was one of the ones that would close the door because there's no need for me to join a meeting. And I'm going, perfect. Yeah. I mean, that's ideal. Yeah. And at the start, helping design the model and the vision together. With a bunch of other great people, Richard Kirby, who's gone on to become the head of IT at Opal, Alison Ness, a bunch of other people as well. That you can see I'm passionate. I just love this, right? Helping people succeed, right? Yeah. And Paul has just done so well,
What I've noticed kind of since your time with Aroa is your roles have been quite punchy.
Yeah, so since then, yeah,
since
that's
then, right?
Yeah.
So Melbourne Water, Lad Associates, Kinetic, Blue Scope.
Yeah.
Do you think that's kind of where you are now in your career in terms of? Actually, I heard someone call this recently the paratrooper CIO. You kind of go in, kind of help get things in shape, get things sorted, and then you're kind of out there and you leave operations to kind of get on it.
Paratrooper, right? Okay.
Is that you?
It sounds quite aggressive, doesn't it?
It does. This person's ex-forces, by the way.
Okay, right.
He's actually. I should give some context. A guy called Andy Foster. He's actually a specific executive coach to CIOs.
Okay. Right.
And he kind of classifies the strengths of CIOs in terms of getting in, having a big impact, knowing when to get out, and leave it to somebody else. Often maybe fixing things up that need a bit of shape and energizing that thing. And as we've been talking, that's kind of wasn't just your physical size and the fact that I'm scared of you, but it was that aspect. You struck me as someone that gets really high energy. Get in, right? What great stuff can we do? And then I'm out of here. I'm gone.
So that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So
off to the next war zone.
Well, yeah, I would say okay. So largely I'd agree with that. The one thing I do miss is the time it takes to develop great teams. Which is clearly a passion I have. So I miss that. But at the same time, yes, I enjoy going in and setting organisations up quickly. If you like, people and organisations. So there's satisfaction in that. Can I talk about the delight that I had around a year ago?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So I mentioned more than once all the wonderful people that I've worked with and the leaders and the teams that I've helped build. I might have instigated it, I might have supported it, I've been part of it, enabled it. But one of those teams, a Dulux Group, produced many wonderful people, many wonderful leaders. One who went to form his own company with a couple of friends. And they circled back and approached me less than a year ago to join them. And and this is Inc. IT Solutions. And Maddie and Kabir, who I worked at Aurora, and Maddie, who I employed into Dulux Group. And we had to wait, I recall, for Maddie to arrive from New Zealand for, I think it was some 4 or 5 months we had to wait because of visas or something. And they approached me to join Inc. IT. And it was one of the delights of my life to receive an invite to join a company that from a fellow who was previously in my team and went on to greater things. And they'd approached me apprehensively, nervously. And when they finally, came to the crunch, it was with absolute delight that I've accepted. I recall saying something like, guys, you could have been selling tomatoes, I would have joined you. You just, such wonderful people, such a wonderful attitude, all of the things that we've talked about that I think we both really admire of leaders, and so it's been an absolute delight to be with them, as well as their Chief Strategy Officer and part owner of Inc. IT Solutions.
You joined as Chief Strategy Officer.
Yeah. How's that though? That is
so
good, right?
And I can actually relate to this. I do some advisory work with a kind of startup recruitment company in the UK, which was founded by 2 or 3 lads that used to work for me.
So it's a beautiful feeling, isn't it?
It's awesome.
I mean, it's truly one of the highlights of my career, because I've always talked about with people like Paula, right? It would be a dream come true for me to work for you, right? In a future organisation, right? Because
absolutely.
That full circle, absolutely brilliant. There's no the ego associated with that is knowing that I played a role in somebody's success, and that they've grown and outgrown me, and now they think I could add some value to them, right?
Yeah,
that's
100%.
That is just.
I'm waiting for Hayley to launch a marketing agency so I can retire.
Nice. Hayley. but that advisory work you do, it's just so fulfilling, right?
I do it in the evenings, and we catch up and we talk about their business and their passions, and it's beautiful. It fills my cup.
Yep,
it fills my
totally.
cup working with those guys because
yeah.
I love their energy, I love their
Yep.
purpose, and
Yep. Yes.
yeah, just seeing what they've done and
Yes.
seeing their success and seeing their business just grow year on
That's
year
right.
and become a really great organization. And it actually gives me a healthy reality check as well when I come back to my day job because I look at what they're achieving and think, God, they're so brave, they're so bold.
And quick.
Yes,
Quick.
absolutely.
Yes, yeah, that's
so-
right. Yeah.
Look, the question I have to, sorry, I'm going to come
Yeah,
back to my
go
question.
on.
So the question I was going to ask you is, I talked about my pet peeve around luck earlier.
Yeah,
The other word that
you make your own luck.
the other word that I hear misrepresented, misused all the time is the word strategy.
Yes.
Everyone uses it
Yep.
to describe everything,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
What's your definition of strategy?
I worked at one of the government organisations back in Australia, and there were 20 strategies, 30. Everyone had a strategy.
Yeah.
So, that's quite interesting. So I've got a very clear definition of a strategy.
Great.
And so one strategy that has rules and metrics associated with it, which is delivered by a business operating model, which is populated by business capabilities, which in turn have criteria attached to them, and are represented to their customers, clients, consumers through personas and journey maps, and which also have metrics and rules associated with them.
Yep.
And that's the strategy. So that's the strategy then that you can, from that springs your HR activities, your IT roadmaps, architecture, everything.
Yeah.
So vision, strategy, goals and metrics, business operating model, business capabilities, personas and journey maps, then into everything else.
Does that date back to your time in volleyball?
Oh yeah. So definitely it draws upon a lot of that clarity.
Yeah.
How can you have 6 different strategies or 6 different? I mean, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
I've never understood. There's a strategy, right?
Yeah.
So there's one strategy,
Correct.
and then there's lots of activities that deliver that strategy.
Tactics, plans,
Tactics,
plans,
plans,
architecture,
architecture,
product,
roadmaps,
services, whatever.
Lots of other stuff. That's right. Yeah. So and after that, all the services that are delivered, the activities that are delivered from that. Yeah. But one strategy. Yeah. So if there has to be an IT strategy, then it's very high level and contains mainly rules and directions.
Yeah.
In my view.
Throughout your career, how much of your kind of decision making has been on gut feel, and how much has been on data?
Ooh, gut feel. No, I don't do gut feel very well. It's So gut feel to me is that cultural alignment and the leadership and all the stuff, which is really based upon all of your experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. And who you are, we talked about originally, so at the start about how you're shaped by your environment and how you respond to it. So all these things. So I know myself to have had a fortunate life. So being shaped through appreciating and welcoming diversity and being curious, all of these things. So I wouldn't call it a gut reaction. I would call it a considered response when you talk about how to get the best out of people.
Yeah.
How to set people up for success. Yeah. In terms then of the plans, the activity, logic.
Yeah.
All logic,
test,
logics,
data, adapt,
all that. Yeah. But trust those that are managing it, that are delivering it, doing it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I'm not the data expert or the security expert or the architecture expert. So find the best people, make sure they're empowered to deliver, and then align to that vision, direction, strategy.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. You can move at pace then.
Yeah,
and deliver
100%.
such success.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's on the same roadmap, the same page.
That's it.
That's it.
Go. Yep. You've got your business rules and your technology rules, and away you go. Get out of the way. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
We're going to move to our lightning round.
Are we?
Right. So I'm going to spread these out, and then I'm going to ask you.
Oh, really? Okay.
To pick 3.
Pick 3.
Right.
Okay. Are they good ones and bad ones?
There's some shockers. No, they're all good. They're all good. So pick three.
Yeah.
Flip it over. Read the question.
Okay.
Give us your answer.
I can't read that. Hold on. What is it? Lightning round.
Yeah.
If it wasn't tech, what would you be doing now? If it wasn't tech, coaching. Absolutely coaching.
What kind of coaching?
People coaching, volleyball coaching, coaching, learning and coaching, learning and doing and coaching, and setting people up for success. So whether it's tech or not, that's been my career, and I'd absolutely be doing that now anyway. And I'm doing it because I'm coaching state teams and club teams and so on. Yeah.
I love how you related learning to coaching.
Yeah, absolutely.
To me, the best way to learn is to teach, or to coach, to advise.
Nice.
I think it helps cement that learning and takes you down different paths. I think it's very easy to read something theoretically, but the minute you have to bring it to life.
We talk about this, a lot of volleyball mates, about the theoretical coach and the coach that has lived it.
Yeah.
And the theoretical coach, which communities need, but they haven't got the full picture.
Yeah,
they don't understand the full picture, right? And success metrics to those theoretical coach might be the impractical, or it might be score orientated. Whereas the more holistic coach talks about performance and output and
it's interesting.
So it's a good one. Okay, another one.
Yes, do it.
Lightning round. If you could have one superpower, what would it be? One superpower. One superpower. One superpower. That's a bloody good question. But I'll put that back, and I picked it up another one. What are the first three things you check when you start your day? First three things I check when I start my day. First three things, the dogs. We've got two dogs, two border collies, Mac and Murphy.
Yeah.
And so they're always on the bed or around the bed or something. So that's definitely one. The second one is with my wife, Fiona. Can I retract that? I put the dogs ahead of Fee.
Too late. It's on record.
Can we edit that? The third one used to be how my body is. So one of the reasons I retired was it took me a while to get out of bed. All the whirlwinds, as it were, of sport. But no, that's it. And draw the blinds and look out and see what sort of day it's going to be. We had a great time in New England. My wife loved the snow. For me, it was made for a great picture. But then you had to shovel it, and I've never been good in the cold. I could have lived in Singapore, not the same job, but lived in Singapore forever. Love that. Have a swimmy at home and so on. So yes, it sounds a bit banal, but the weather as well. So and the third one, not the fourth one.
Superpowers. Avoiding questions is your superpower.
We're shaped by the feedback we receive. What is the most significant feedback you've received in your career? The most significant feedback. Shaped through sport. Definitely. You mentioned at the start that it didn't talk about it in our first conversation, or I'm not going to be drawn upon it a little bit. I understand clearly that it shaped my career. So I go back to my environment, my parents, lifelong learners, always questioning. Always having conversations about everything, rarely concluding summarily with an opinion, and being flexible with an opinion as well. So always listening and learning, and some of your comments as well, listening and learning all the time, and that's sport as well, listening and learning and growing, right? All the time. So those are lifelong learnings that I'll never lose. I mentioned my father wanting to get to the hotel in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, where the book The Quiet American was written by Graham Greene, and turned into a movie with Brendan Fraser and Michael Caine some years later, right? So to die in that hotel, right, gives you an idea about my motivation as well to learn and grow continuously as well. So
Very good, thank you. I've got a couple of other questions for you.
Right.
What are you most proud of in your working career?
Most proud of in my working career. The wonderful people I've worked with, the wonderful leaders that's produced, and the great output the success that they have delivered.
Yeah.
So undoubtedly, that's it. The outcome of that is whether it's in the pharmaceutical world or the manufacturing or fast-moving consumer goods or local government or public utilities or whatever it is the output that setting people up for success is delivered. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Do you have any career regrets?
Career regrets. I've joined some organisations and experienced those things that I detest. The micromanagement or the overt or covert sexism or racism, which I have no time for, and so experiencing that in some organisations, has been underwhelming. Let's say,
yeah.
Right? But regrets? No regrets. Learnings. Lots of learnings.
We tend to regret the things we didn't do.
Oh, nice.
As opposed to what we did do. Is there anything you haven't done that you regret?
Everything I haven't. Well, I'm not dead yet.
Well, all right. Well, the things that you could have done, there was sliding door moments, and you didn't do.
I love Monty Python. My father put me on to Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and Monty Python.
Job done.
Job done. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. That's fatherhood right there.
That's right. Regrets? No. Did I achieve absolutely everything? No. But it's a life fulfilled, right? So, no, I don't do the regrets. I suppose part of that eternal optimism.
Yeah,
I think, right? And as I said, so you're meeting with Paula O'Toole. Working with people like Paula, an absolute delight. Being employed into an organisation of someone that I employed into Dulux Group.
Yeah,
an absolute delight.
Yeah.
The coaching that I do in clubs and the initial confusion delivered through ambiguity before they take ownership and stand up and become even more powerful athletes, an absolute delight.
Yeah.
So you can see the consistency in my position with this as well, right? Regrets about a game that I played in France or something? No. A CRM system that didn't quite work out in me. No. I mean, yeah.
It's interesting. I'm a big fan of Dr. Steve Peters, if you know him.
Well, you give me two names to look up now, but go on.
So his book's The Chimp Paradox. He was actually the sports psychologist behind the success of the British cycling team.
Oh, well, huge success.
Yeah, huge. So Dave Brailsford brought him in specifically to work on the kind of mental side and the chimp brain, human brain. Anyway, I won't ruin the book for you. But the first thing he does with athletes when he coaches them as a sports psychologist, and he's worked with people like Ronnie O'Sullivan and all these people, is it's just a game of tiddlywinks.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
Win or lose, it's just a game of tiddlywinks.
It's 1 point. That's right. Context.
And the minute you can disassociate from the outcome,
nice.
The happier you're going to be.
Perfect.
And that's a cracking book. And there's a second book which I haven't read actually post that, but I think you'd enjoy that one from a sports psychology point of view.
Yes. Great.
What piece of sage advice would you give to the next generation?
You asked me something about books and podcasts and so on. So, I mean, the podcasts I listen to are science, fact, science fiction, humor, all sorts of different stuff, right? I mean, finding your own way of leading, really.
Yeah.
Right? So I can't presume to understand everyone's different circumstance and understand what makes them, what triggers they need, what metrics they consider to be success as well. Because everyone has a different success metric, right?
Yeah.
For some, it's a title. For some, it's the number of people they manage. For budgets, impact. Who knows, right? So I think probably just a higher level of introspection. some of my peers lack that introspection and become those top-down leaders who feel the value they deliver is through their comprehensive knowledge of absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because they're never going to learn.
I think historically it's been a sign of status.
Yep.
Being the person that makes it, the kind
right.
of Nero, right?
I know everything. Yep.
It kind of goes back historically in history with what leadership was defined as.
But who wants to work there?
Well, and I think...
And you've got great people, but they're not adding the value they could.
But I think what we're seeing now over the last 20 years is the way that some of the big tech companies have grown and evolved very quickly with a different way of doing things. And I think that other businesses are starting to take note now. Other leadership models are being developed to encourage that more authentic, vulnerable leader. It doesn't have to be making a decision over everything. And I think if you look at the agility, the speed, the execution of some of the fast-growing tech companies, doesn't mean necessarily they're doing the right thing, by the way, for the world with Facebook and Instagram and so forth. But the ability of those businesses to scale very, very quickly, and what they've achieved and the way that they've fostered their teams.
Anton, there's the answer, isn't it?
It is, that's right.
So you've answered your own question, I think.
Lean into it.
I agree with as well.
You mentioned there, there's nothing specific you read or listen to from a podcast point of view, but is there like a go-to that kind of inspires you around any of that stuff?
The learnings, the multicultural approach. So all of those, my study, the books that I've read, that delivered most value to me when I assumed roles that encompassed multiple cultures were the ones we've talked about, the most valuable ones, right? It's not the technology book or any of that. It's setting people up for success again, and even back in Australia, because we're a multicultural country, aren't we, in Australia? So
enormously, I think it's one of the biggest attributes of Australia, positive attributes.
So whatever the medium, whether it's a book or a podcast or whatever it is, back to your points, because I'm thinking on the fly about your comments just then, and I think I largely subscribe to them, right? That new type of leader, right? So the ones that truly add, value, right? By whatever metric the organisation judges to be success, are delivered through those new models of leadership, aren't they?
100%. 100%. I think so. I feel like I could keep going forever talking to you.
Could you?
You're a fascinating person.
Thank you.
I think you've got a wealth of experience, and I feel actually really indulgent because when we do these podcasts, I feel like I learn so much just sitting with people like yourself. But I've learned.
Well, you've had lots of great guests on. Lots of great guests.
We have some incredible guests, and again, it's interesting just trying to encourage more people to come and tell their story.
Perfect.
Many tech leaders are reluctant because they think, why would someone be interested? Or what
listen
have I
and
got to
learn.
say?
Share, listen and learn.
Absolutely.
And you've forced some good introspection upon me as well. The conversation.
And look, it's. I think that's what I try to encourage because most people don't have to often stop and look back at their own
reflect.
journey. And it's nice being able to do that with people and learn through the process. But you've also inspired me today. I'm going to go and read The Quiet American. I will read it because
what about the French Indochine and the French moving out and the Americans moving in, the communists and the whole story, right? That's
But because I've actually just recently been to Ho Chi Minh as well.
Have you? Fantastic.
A few months ago.
I mean, there's a country doing great things as well. Right?
Awesome.
Just amazing.
Absolutely.
So
thank you for your time. Thank you for being very generous.
Thanks for the invite. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks.
Cheers.
Nice.
Thank you for listening to Tales from Tech Titans, and be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcast. If you'd like to get more insights about tech careers, then check out the Ember, that's EMMBR LinkedIn page for the latest updates, articles, and engaging discussions.